Bob Miller with us today, the founder of IR Games. Bob, why don't you just kick us off because we've only got 15 minutes. Just
Yeah.
where did IR Games come from?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and thanks, by the way, Mary, for having me. I'm a big fan of Security, so this has been really a great opportunity for me to get a chance to even do this with you. But so where our game really began as a community project about 2.5 years ago. At the time, I was the COO of a managed service provider, about 130 employees, so a good sized managed service provider. And I helped them introduce the security practice into the offering, so we became an MSSP at the same time. During all of that time, I was looking for some way to reach the customers that we were interacting with on a day-to-day basis, and find a way for them to really understand why they needed to invest in layered security, that sort of thing. So, looking around for methods to do that, I ran into an unknown guy called Matt Lee that nobody knows on the planet. But
I know Cat Lee. I don't know a Matt Lee.
yeah, well, yeah, it says Cat Lee's the brains. She kind of makes that whole thing work. But yeah, there's this guy out front called Matt Lee, and Ethan Tancredi, who was actually part of Huntress right now. And they were doing a physical tabletop that I bum rushed into during a conference called Writer Boom, and literally just bum rushed in because I wasn't registered for it. It was full, and they were kind enough to let me just sit in because there was a couple of people that didn't show up. So sitting through that, I realized how much value that was. So brought that back. We did it with my MSP, even though we had instant response plans and been practicing twice a year.
Mhm.
We uncovered about a dozen things we needed to modify just from actually doing that exercise. So it told me that even though you're a 25-year-old company, I'd been with them about 6 years, 5 years at that point. Even though you think you've got it all wired, the value of these exercises are to really show you the gaps that you're not paying attention to. And I said, if it does that much for us as a managed service provider, who we operated at an operational maturity level of 4.6 out of 5, right? So we were very much a mature operational organization. If it did that for us, that's how much I knew the value that it was going to really represent for the customers, our customers. So that's really what started this community project of taking those physical paper ones and bringing them into the digital world. I've been a gamer since I was a kid. My background, software development. I've got a degree in computer science, so putting something online it's not revolutionary to me. It's just, hey, it's the next logical step. So we put this thing online and started doing free games the end of every month, and we've been doing that for over 2.5 years as a part of just a community group. We did it nights and weekends. So that's really got us started. That was the genesis of what became, IR Game.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
When people join,
Hmm.
I was asking you, is it something I can do, or do you have to be? Or what would I expect if I join your free game?
Yeah, and it's interesting. I wish I could just everybody who's sat through, because we've had over 1,000 people sit through these. And by the way, C-level peoples, leadership people, all the way down to technical people. The point being is, I think that's what differentiates what it is that we do related to these exercises. That 80% of an incident turns out is not technical. So it's more leadership, decision making, and prioritization, and some really hard decisions, and the timing of how to do that, and all of those things that are the human side of a cyber incident. That's the part that we really focus on, because the technical part is the technical part. It's going to require a certain amount of work by a certain group of people to
Mhm.
overcome the technical aspects of it. But again, it's only about 20% of an organization trying to overcome this. So our system is built for people who are not technical to be able to engage with and actually see what that other 80% really involves. Because most people, I mean, they don't know until they get into it,
Mhm.
what's really involved. What kind of decisions you're going to have to make? What kind of hard calls are you going to have to make? It's a lot like battlefield triage. Sometimes you have to pick the least of two bad decisions and prioritize. And you don't, if you just sit at a table and you're eating pizza and you've got it on paper, and somebody can say, well, who's going to handle this? And they can just raise their hand. Oh, I've got it. And there's no actual resource allocation, or knowing that you don't have all the resources you need for every
Mhm.
challenge you're up against. Unless you're in that environment, then you don't really get a feel for how rough it can be, right? In
Yeah.
reality. And so that's the other thing that's different about us. So yes, you do not have to be technical at all. to take part in it, and you learn a great deal about what the technical people have to do to make it
Hmm.
happen. And even if you're technical, when you're in there, you still learn what the leadership team has to, the kind of way you can communicate with the leadership team to make their decision making process easier, which just helps the whole organization. So it helps regardless of being technical or not, but it's, you do not have to be technical to be a part of it at all, right? That's the part.
Yeah, how hard is it, or how important? I guess it's two questions. How hard
Okay.
is it to get C-level buy-in, and how important is it to get C-level buy-in?
Yeah, well, it's usually it's difficult to get them to do this stuff. Now they know. I don't want to paint a bad picture because every leader of any kind of organization, they're all about risk mitigation, right? I mean, that's what their lives are really wrapped around the axis about: risk mitigation, revenue generation. Those are the things that concern them. Um, but they don't know what they don't know, and in some
Hmm.
cases, it becomes a human thing about, well, I don't want to show everybody what I don't know, right? And
True.
so that's why a lot of tabletop exercises that are customized for a company never kind of get off the ground, because if you know what you're going to do is you're going to try and get everybody in a room and you're going to talk about all the flaws that exist in your own company. And so the first half of the day, and these things usually take a whole day, the first half of the day is trying to have a share group to get everybody over the emotional shock of having to talk about what's not going right in
Yeah.
their organization, right? So we don't we lean toward, we use fictitious companies, because here's one thing I figured out, Mary,
Oh,
is that everybody hates talking about their company and themselves, but everybody will pay to talk about what other companies have done wrong.
human nature, I guess.
Yeah. So much easier to get a leadership team from company A to get into a fictitious company and talk about what company B didn't do right. Right. That's a much easier a way to engage those individuals. And what's fascinating about it is that once they get in there and they get in the rhythm of actually doing the exercise, they open up about, okay, well, this is what they did wrong. Do we really have that covered? Yes or no?
Yeah.
And then they'll go,
They can
I
draw
don't think
those
we have that covered.
parallels.
That's exactly right. So, and they're looking at it through a different lens at that point, and it's much easier to have the dialogue with them. And we uncover a whole lot more gaps by doing it that way than if you go try to confront the whole organization about what's not going right inside the organization, right? So that's the thing. How do you make it easy for them to engage? That's a way to make that easy to engage. Is it hard? It is if you try to go and do it centered around them. Not as hard if you say, hey,
Yeah.
come spend 90 minutes and see what an incident really looks like. And we're not having to talk about you. You don't have to talk about your dirty laundry. You're going to help us debug what's wrong with this fictitious company. That's a much easier sell. Now, how important is it? How can you put a price tag on
Yeah.
being able to actually respond, figure out what your gaps are, be able to then know that you can prioritize those and start reducing them, reducing the risk? And what's the value for that if you reduce the risk or mitigate mitigate an opportunity for bad guys to take advantage of you, right? I mean, how
Well,
much is that really worth? Yeah.
I think the answer to that question is it could shut your business down,
That
honestly.
it shuts lots of businesses down.
Yeah.
And by the way, the thing that people need to remember is it's going to be more of that, not less of that as we go, right?
Yeah.
So
Most
that's going to happen more, not less. Because again, automation and AI are making it much easier
ugh,
for smaller and smaller groups to be able to do this, right?
yeah.
And so that's what we're going to see happening over and over and over again. So it's going down market. So smaller and smaller organizations are going to get affected by this because of the nature of who's involved, right? And the tools they're using.
Yeah, most definitely. I
Yeah,
think the genius of it is you not making it about them. I think that is
yeah,
brilliant.
yeah. Well, yeah,
Something
it was a
something
little
tells me you're
magical
the
figuring it
future.
out, but yeah, I'm sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead.
I was going to say something just brings me back to my teacher days of no
Hmm.
matter what,
Yeah,
you make them think they had the idea.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that ownership piece is huge because then
yeah,
it's like, oh my goodness, like I'm going to swoop in and like kind of save some things here.
yeah, right.
You know, I think,
100%. And again, you got to remember what this was about. This was about us as an MSP establishing a strategic relationship with our customer, right? And so being able to do this as an exercise with our customer, it changed the dynamic from us being a break fix organization to us actually being engaged at a strategic level, saying, okay, well,
mm,
you've got some pretty serious gaps. We'll help you prioritize them. The ones that we can fix for you, we will get on top of based on what you can, how we want to do it budget wise. but we'll help you find somebody to fix those other ones too. That changes the relationship between you and that organization, because they're going to be willing to talk about the gaps now because you've had that
Yeah.
discussion already, right? And so that's what the system was really kind of built for, is for MSPs to be able to use it as a tool. We give you everything you need. We give you a facilitator guide, the platform's ready to go. It takes 15 minutes to provision a game. You're up and running, you do it. We got a day after report. We have a facilitator guide to help you facilitate the meeting. I have made this as simple as possible for an MSP to be able to pick this up and run the ball with it, because it's really important. We need that, because cyber insurance is going to start requiring you to prove that you've exercised your IR
Yeah.
plan. And there's no workforce that can handle this other than the MSP channel. And I saw that over the course of the last year or two. And I said, look, we got to build a machine that allows these people to do this, or we're going to have a huge gap in capability. And, people are going to suffer because of it. And that was pre-AI. Now that AI is involved, it's even more of an issue,
Yeah.
right? Obviously.
Yeah. Well, I think that you're always chasing a moving target
Excellent. That's
and
right.
you're adjusting your lesson plan, if you will,
Yeah.
as you go.
Right.
And yeah, I think that you, instead of being somebody selling a product, you're a trusted advisor at that point.
That's what it is, right? Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we've got some partners using it brilliantly. I wish, and I can't take credit for this. Josh Hoban, who works for an MSP. That people know Josh Hoban, but you should go look him up. He's a great guy, and he's actually an advisor for our game. But for his MSP, they've started using it as an onboarding tool. So they do a network assessment, a business risk assessment, and now they call it a leadership assessment. So they run a game with the leadership, so they know what the decision making process is going to look like with that leadership, if something, as they progress, right?
Hmm.
And what that does is now they establish that strategic relationship at the very beginning of the
Yeah.
relationship, right? And so it just changes their dynamic completely on a go forward basis. So there's very few tools that allow you to create that relationship with
Yeah.
the leadership. So I mean, it works on. And by the way, it's not going to be hard for them to understand the value of doing once or twice a year exercises after you do that with them at the beginning, because
Hmm.
they're going to see the value proposition related to it,
Yeah,
right?
for
So
sure.
it just makes it easy.
It reminds me almost of having like a lawyer on retention. Is
That's
that
exactly.
you've got someone you can pick up the phone
That's
and
right.
call and say,
Right.
hey, there's something new that has come into the environment. We need you guys
Hmm.
to tell us, is this okay? Is it not okay? What
Exactly.
should we do with it?
Yeah. And I mean, we get the question, well, can't AI just replace that? And I'm going, well, yeah, but AI can't read the room, right?
Yeah.
AI can't figure out what, when you look at somebody, and by the way, you can do this virtually. So we've had games where people were in Sweden, Senegal, South Africa, all in the game simultaneously from all over the planet, and we were running the exercise with those folks. So you can do this virtually, where people are actually sitting where they're normally sit during the day, you running an exercise in that environment. You can do this virtually, right? So nobody has to get out of their chair to kind of take part in it. And when you do that, everybody understands how this kind of works, right? It really it makes them feel comfortable that, okay, when this really does happen, at least I know what sequence of events we need to follow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it mimics it's as close as I think you can get to a real incident, and manage a real incident as it's out there right now. I mean, I just feel like it's the right level of specificity. There are lots of really good tactical exercises, backwards and breaches, cyber ranges.
Yeah.
This is really the organizational strategic one that I think ties that all together.
I think that's awesome. I always lose a thought. You were talking, I was like, oh, I got to ask him this, and then it's gone. How many like, is there a catalog of games?
Yeah, we have scenarios. Yeah, we generate in scenarios all the time, right? So yes, we have probably a dozen different types of scenarios. We we were one of the first ones to have AI oriented scenarios. So we have quite a few AI scenarios that are AI cloud compromise, AI browser compromises, third party compromises that involve AI acceleration. So that's a wedge of our catalog that's very current. And then we have the standard, we have lots of standard ones like ransomware, business email compromise, cloud
Well,
compromises, everything else. So yes, we've got a
that's
pretty.
it's just amazing, and this has been the fastest 15 minutes I've ever had. You've had so much great information. Bob, how
Yeah.
do people get in touch with you?
You can look us up at www.irgame.ai, and you can find me on LinkedIn by just looking for IR Game and Bob Miller or Robert Miller, and you'll find me easy. I'm on there running my mouth all the time. I'm pretty easy to spot.
Well, it was also great seeing you at PAX 8 Beyond in
Yeah,
Salt
that
Lake
was a
City.
bonus. Yeah,
Yes.
right.
So,
Okay. I've lost the hearing for some reason. I can't hear you.